Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay. So you have just finished watching part one of our week 8 material of Introduction to Restaurant Design. We are now going into part two, which is a little bit more brief. So as you see here, the first thing I want to talk about is the goal of design and how specifically that works for your major project as well. So when we talk about design, we're not only talking about how the actual operation works as far as the customer, but also with the staff member and also with product involved as well. So a couple very easy design principles that we must think about when we want to design any space is the first one: keep it simple, stupid. So that's just kind of one of those sayings that we don't need to over design or over develop our space. It's just one of those things that it's often the most simple design ends up being the most efficient design. We want to make sure that we have an efficient flow of people and product, so how those things move around the restaurant. So when you think about that, you want to think about how you buy items, where they're going to come in, do they need to go to the refrigerators, the freezers, the dry storage, and where in relation is your back door to those spots. As well as the people in the front door, where your washroom's located. Do they have to be walking through the restaurant to go to the washroom, or can they be waiting at the front door? So a lot of little things that we'll think about. We also talk about ease of sanitation and ease of supervision. Now these are fairly simple in concept, but basically what we're asking is, if it's easy to clean, your people at your restaurant will keep it clean. If it's difficult, so if it's bad lighting or it's very low spaces or equipment that doesn't have wheels on it, it might not get cleaned that well. So when it comes to design, if you want a clean space, make it easy on them. Same thing with supervision. If you want your managers to be able to supervise and your supervisors on your floor to be able to do their job properly, make sure that they can see a lot of the areas from a few general spots. Doing this will effectively make it labor efficient, as well as using your space properly. And the thing about our space is that when we use our space, we pay for it by square footage. So the better we use our space, the more money we save. So this is just some of the different areas in the front of house. I won't go through each and all of them as I do throughout this the next little portion here. Also, a couple things that we want to ask is, what kind of space is going to be required? And this is a more difficult question because, you know, this is the first time designing a restaurant. You don't know how many people are going to come in the front door. Some things that we want to try to guess is number of meals to be served and the function and tasks to be performed. So this is maybe different cooking styles or different service styles. So is it a buffet restaurant? Is it an open kitchen? What kind of meals are you having? Do you need grills? Do you need saute? Do you need ovens? Are you baking at all? These are all the kind of things that we want to make sure we understand, which is why having a menu is really important before you start the design. You also want to think about the number of employees and workstations and some of the storage requirements. Now, a lot of storage requirements could be a bit of an afterthought, where you can build your bathrooms and you can build your major hallways and dining areas and then look for efficient areas to put storage. And then you also want to think about your type of service and traffic flow. So there is 12 steps here that I won't go through. I want you to read all 12 of these steps. So when you just open the PowerPoint, go through them. That kind of gives you an effective design platform. So things that you need to know about when you are designing your restaurant. I don't want to just read them over for you. And the next thing I want to talk about is turnover rate. So what turnover rate is, essentially, is how many times during a meal period that you can flip a table, or you can get your customer to come, sit down, eat, leave, clean the table, and another customer to come. It is kind of one of those huge factors that can make or break a restaurant, make it successful or make it lose money. So increasing those flip times during your money periods, your lunch and your dinner, is really how we make good money. So some ways and tricks that we can incorporate when we talk about design, and also when we talk about service, on how to make sure we have a fast turnover without trying to make the customer feel rushed. So it is a formula, like many things in this course, And finding out your turnover rate is the number of guests divided by the number of seats in your restaurants. So, and these will vary from meal periods, lunch being a faster turnover than a dinner. And like a fast food being a very fast turnover, or a fast casual being a very quick turnover, versus like a fine dining, which usually takes a few hours. So a couple things that you can do. So as far as service style, you can increase some pre-prepared items. So getting food to the table faster will help you flip those tables. And then same thing with your menu items. So items with a short preparation time. So something that an appetizer that takes 25 minutes is just far too long for any restaurant. So you're waiting 25 minutes before you even start the first portion of your meal. And many like to finish their appetizer before even starting cooking on their main. So making sure those appetizers are between 8 and 12 minutes to the table is a really fantastic way of looking at that. Lots of great work areas and increased lighting will help. Using bright colors and keeping tables close together actually have been proven to increase turnover rate. You can also increase the production area and increase service staff. So this is basically just getting food to the table quicker, either through your back of house means or the front of house means. You can increase the number of service staff or the quick check delivery. So as an example, in the Keg, as soon as you order dessert, they bring you the bill. Regardless if you've even gotten your dessert, regardless if you've finished it, they just bring you your bill, and just by way of saying, here's your bill for your convenience only, no rush. So I basically told them, here's the bill, I want you to pay, but actually don't want me make you feel bad about waiting a little bit. So it's a little trick. It actually works really well. It often prompts that person to pay for the bill, but also doesn't feel like they're being rushed. And the last one is seating quality. So essentially, if you provide very comfortable seating, you're going to have people sticking around a little while. If you provide more of like more rigid seating, then often what happens is that they don't stay as long. So depending on what your service is, if it's fine dining, you want them to stay. You want them to order that extra round of drinks or desserts or whatever it is. If it's more of a fast service style, you want them kind of in and out. So don't have really comfortable big booths and couches. This one here is a slide for you just to kind of give you an idea of some of the different styles of service. So table service, counter service, which is bar service, booth, cafeteria style, and banquet. And they'll tell you how much space per seat you need. So 12 to 18 square feet is essentially what you would need, or 16 to 20 square feet. It gives you an idea of kind of your range. If you want 50-seat restaurant, 100-seat restaurant, you just go 50 seats or 100 seats and you multiply it by this. Now, usually we have a combination. So we'll have 20 seats at the bar, 60 seats in the restaurant, which is a combination of booths and tables, and then maybe another 40 seats out on the patio, which is probably all tables. So by a quick couple mathematical formulas here, you can find out what it is, or you can do it more of like a trial and basis style, where you just create a space and you start putting tables in, and then increase the space as you need it. But it gives you an idea of the space that's required and how it changes with different types of service. Another one I want to talk about is hallways, entrances, washrooms, and storage. Now, these are the spaces that most customers in restaurants don't notice as much. Usually they're looking at the bar area, their actual seating area, but these are the spaces that can make or break a really successful restaurant. So a few things we want to talk about. The traffic flow. So ensuring we have a good traffic flow, that we're not going to be running into anyone, that the customers know where the washrooms are, the back of house is out of sight, and deliveries are out of sight, and all those wonderful things. So this is when I talk about traffic flow, refers to the movement of employees, guests, products, and supplies. So really there's 3 or 4 different types of movement. The customers, and they usually only come in the front door, and they don't go beyond the dining room and the bar area. The employees, front of house and back of house, and they have different paths that they travel all the time. The food, so the food's coming basically from the hot line, or where it's finally prepared, and then it goes through the restaurant to the customer and back to the warewashing area. And then also the supplies which come in through the back door. So as far as timing of these products and how they move, we'll take a look at that as well. One thing you should know, 30 inches is a minimum aisle width. Now you're going to want a lot wider than that on your main traffic spaces, enough for 2 people to come and go. But 30 inches in between even any aisle is a minimum. Washrooms are very important because we have to offer all kinds of different sizes and services with those. Specifically now that cleanliness is going to be such an issue and keeping hygiene to a high level. So ensuring you have handicap access, changing tables and sinks. Even now, because of the way that an in and an outdoor would probably be really a smart idea as well. And a general rule is 1 toilet for every 15 people in the building, including staff. So if you have seating for 120 and then you think you might have up to another 20 staff, that's 140. Make sure you divide that by 15 and that'll tell you how many toilets you should have spread throughout your restaurant. And it's easy. It's safe to assume that if you have 140 people in your restaurant, half of them male, half of them female. Entrances. So the entrance to the restaurant and the waiting area is actually really important as well. It's often where people have to wait the longest for their table and they can get angry. So if you can provide something that is comfortable or has something really nice to look at or a nice ambiance, that'll help you. Another big thing is also we live in Canada and we have 4 seasons and 2, almost 3 of them can get quite cold. So when you think about having a door opening and closing, you want to be really careful about that weather. So you're going to get that cold blast of air every time you open that door. And even in the hot summer, if you have AC, same thing. You'll have that hot air blasting in when you're trying to keep your restaurant cool. So making sure you have a vestibule, which is kind of another separate entrance. So you'll walk into a smaller room, which could be your waiting area, and then through another set of doors into the restaurant. That's going to really stop a lot of that weather concern. Save money on bills as well, as far as your electrical and your gas and your heating. Or you can do kind of the roundabout door as well, which many places have. And then the final thing is spacing in the view from the entrance. So personally, I don't want people standing at the front door looking at what I'm eating and looking at my table and also maybe wondering, are they almost done yet? Have they got a bill? Because they want that table. They want to come in and sit there. So ensuring that the spacing and view from the entrance, you don't get to see all your people eating and all the other customers there. You want to kind of have it blocked off a little bit. And the last part is the storage. So storage is really important. You can never have enough storage. That's what people often complain about when they have new kitchens and they have new homes. There's not enough storage, closet space, linen space, you name it. So a couple of things that you should understand is that there's really ingenious ways to store things. So under every single booth, typically what happens is you can lift the seats up and store things underneath there. Now you want to make sure you store things that you're not going to need during service because you don't want to ask somebody to move, but there is storage there. Bathrooms have great storage capabilities above all washrooms and urinals and stalls. They could be cupboards and cabinetry up top there. It should be out of sight. It should be lockable specifically if customers are able to access that area. And then also we need to think about strollers, walkers, wheelchairs. We serve food to all different demographics, and that includes new mothers, that includes elderly, and a lot of them have those things. So ensuring that we have some sort of area that we can place them so it's out of sight, so it's not right in front of the table or as a tripping hazard, is important as well. So that's a very basic introduction to design. And this is part 2. So next week, we're going to go into a lot more detail. We will look at the front of house design options. And from there, we will then journey into the back of house. And at that point, you should feel fairly capable of designing your own restaurant. So I hope you're having fun with the program. I know there's a little bit of technical issues. Once those are ironed out, it's going to be a whole bunch of fun. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.